So, welcome to Eat the Rich at the Movies, a panel that happened because I noticed a trend that I think is a trend, and I wanted to talk to people, or talk with people about it, so hooray! So, I was, well, I watch a lot of movies, I go to film festivals, etc., etc. And in the last couple of years, I noticed that a lot of my favorite movies that have come out or had really similar themes about them. And I realized there was a lot of really popular movies coming out that had a really overt theme of defeating a rich antagonist. And not just like in the, Cruella de Vil wants to make a coat out of puppies way, but the whole movie seems to be about the class struggle as a main part of the plot. So, should we first kind of lay out the films that I have about?
Yeah, this is your panel.
All right.
We're here for you, Melissa.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You are right. I have forgotten. My name is Melissa Kaercher. I'm a movies nerd. I talk a lot on panels at CONvergence and stuff.
Hi, my name is Tim Wick. I am also a movie nerd, as well as a nerd of other stripes. And Melissa asked me to be on this panel, and I said yes.
Hi, I'm Cisco, also a nerd.
Yeah.
Very lonely nerd since 1998, every Sunday without fail. Oh no, there's 2 exceptions. I have seen a movie in theaters, usually first run, and then watch when I get home. Because movies can't call you names. No, that's super sad when it comes to
It's very sad.
big cinephile, but without the pretension. Just love movies, good ones, bad ones, fun ones. I do want to push back a teen secret though. I don't think it's a recent trend.
Oh, very good. I mean, this is exactly the sort of discussion I wanted to have. I mean, okay, I'll first go through the movies, and then we can launch out from there.
Okay.
Okay. And these are in chronological order. The first one, You're Next, which is, how many people have seen You're Next? Oh, nice, nice. This is a movie that I really loved. It was a movie that was made about 2 years before it was released, because there was some sort of, it got shelved for some reason, and then kind of pushed out to theaters very suddenly and then disappeared. But anyway, this is a movie where a woman who is dating a guy from a richer family is brought home to meet the family, and then people start dying because there are 3 guys who start, firing arrows into the windows, and in a beautiful, beautiful scene. As they first are starting to get picked off, the main woman just suddenly turns into this survivalism expert because she was trained. So rather than just having a ordinary woman fighting back against serial killers, I'm sorry, I'm really dehydrated right now. She finding them fighting against a force that is at least as good as they are is really fun. And then we have Snowpiercer. Right? Yeah, good stuff.
Also has a train.
It has a train. It keeps on going around and around the world. Yeah, and some greenest people indeed. But yeah, I mean,
it's okay.
What was that?
It's crickets, it's okay.
I still couldn't.
Cricket.
It's crickets. It's okay.
Oh, okay. So anyway, it was. I haven't seen it in a while. Anyway, yes, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, the poor people are at the back of the train, and one of the guys has to fight his way forward through the richer and richer compartments of the train to get to the conductor. And it's really fun. It's got Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Good movie.
It is a really good movie. And then, of course, we get Out, which is a black man who's dating a white woman from a richer family, goes to meet the family, and
Weird shit happens.
But it's a good trade.
What was that?
It's a good trade, not to spoil Get Out for the one
Yeah.
Watched it, and everyone's like, this is a great horror film. It's so suspenseful, and it has a lot of social commentary. It does have a lot of social commentary, but what's the horror element? They're like, we're gonna take the super fun to look at actors from girls. You're gonna sleep with her for 2 years, and in exchange, you get to just coast while someone else takes over all your duties, no more work, no more stress.
That is an interesting, different way to look at that film.
Indeed. Next year we have Sorry to Bother You. Oh my god, I love this movie.
So crazy.
A guy becomes a what was that?
Stan Winston did the Creature.
Oh yeah, Stan Winston did the Creature. Spoiler, there's creatures. But yeah, it's delightful. A guy starts working for a telemarketing firm and learns that he gets better results from the calls if he uses his white voice, and starts to move up into the upper echelons of the company, and it's a whole thing.
Whole thing.
Weird shit happens. Weird shit happens.
Should we have started this by saying there will be spoilers, so that we don't have to apologize for that. There will be spoilers.
There will be spoilers.
Yeah.
Ready or not? Yeah, right? Super fun. It's eating all the scenery she can. But once again...
And also eating the rich.
Yes, indeed. So once again, a woman who is dating a man from a richer family is brought home to meet the family. It's her fiance, and they say, well, it's a tradition in our family, before you marry into our family, you have to survive this night of tag. or hide and seek. It's hide and seek.
Hide and seek.
It's hide and seek. And weird shit happens.
Indeed.
Parasite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is...
I understand that film won an Oscar.
2 Oscars, and Bong Joon-ho made them kiss like Barbie dolls. There is a photo of it, and it's so good. Yes. So once again, Bong Joon-ho, director of Snowpiercer, came back and made Parasite, a Korean film with a family an entire family of down and out people trying to find work, and they start kind of working their way into this rich family by not saying that they're family members, but kind of, I'm looking for the word, they're pretending to be like one's
Masquerading.
Yeah, masquerading as a tutor and a chauffeur. One of them's a chauffeur, and so they start kind of taking over the rich people's house. Knives Out, which is delightful. Murder mystery with a cast of many, and of course James Bond solving it all. What was that? Yes. Foghorn Leghorn accent, absolutely. And of course, its companion, Glass Onion. Foghorn Leghorn visits Elon Musk. That's great.
So good.
There's so much love for the menu, and I love it. Yeah. Okay, so the menu is about a super elite restaurant where each plate costs like $2,500. And you are introduced to this place by, there's this guy who well, spoiler, he hires a sex worker to be his date to go to this restaurant. And all the other tables are these super rich and powerful people, like politicians and movie stars and so on and so forth. Also a cast of many. And Ralph Fiennes is the head chef of this restaurant, and he has planned an extra special night where he starts having his revenge upon the rich people who have kind of ruined food through haute cuisine. So.
And weird things happen.
And weird shit. And finally, we've got Triangle of Sadness. I know we have, did I hear a move? Yeah, it's divisive, and I know we have at least one fan of it in the audience, so people love it, people hate it. That kind of happens with Ruben Östlund's movies, but I personally don't like this movie very much, but it is definitely part of the theme, and it definitely has its audience. Anyway, the plot is there is this giant yacht filled with very rich people, and weird shit happens.
Well,
Yes.
I think the reason that this is all weird shit happens is because we all understand that real rich people suffer no consequences. And in all these movies, they suffer consequences, which is indeed weird.
Yes, and it feels good. So, I would like to, now, we should start with Taylor, because you said you think this is not a trend, it has always existed.
It has. Well, I don't want to say always, but I do think it's like one of those inherent elements of storytelling is conflict. And there's always been conflict between not even rich poor, but if you go way back, just have and have not.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you look at things like folklore, we talk about things like Midas and the Golden Touch, and the rich man's folly. You look at like the Christian Bible has parables about like the rich man and Lazarus, where there's this guy who's just like literally at his gates, can't get food, and they say like the wealthy man won't even give him the crumbs from his table, and then he ends up dying and going to hell and talking to, I think it's like Moses or somebody. Christianity is kind of weird.
Because, you know, you read that book and weird shit happens.
But then going just throughout, I mean, if you look at most of Shakespeare's tragedies, almost every primary protagonist is someone of either like high status or high wealth. King Lear, Julius Caesar, the guy who killed his girlfriend but pretended to be crazy.
Othello.
Othello was justified. Othello was the reason when we started the fight for like integration, everyone's like, well, wait a second.
Titus?
That was presented in the case, Love Me v. Virginia in the 1950s, which legalized interracial marriage. They presented Othello. I'm totally bullshitting that.
Don't mess with the audience. It's
I was 100% willing to believe you. I really
But you can go down to like elements like there's a great episode of The Twilight Zone called Masks, which is just about this rich guy getting back at his rich jerk off by making them wear masks that show their true selves. And I think what happened was there was a weird thing somewhere on the turn of the 20th century where they started trying to add to it. So you take something like The Great Gatsby, where on its face it seems like it would fit into the whole eat the rich narrative, where we're going to watch people of high status like end up like being overly confident or arrogant and falling prey to their own hubris.
Right.
But it's sort of inverted a little bit because really it's just a show about like this jerk-off poser who's like pissed off because he can't be what they are, and then there aren't really any consequences to their actions except Gatsby, which becomes more complex because Gatsby is a passing black man, and like, yeah, that's a whole other panel of books. There's not. And so there's like, because he wasn't wealthy, he was sort of like the mythological like self-made or self-borrowed sort of Don Draper wealthy dude. And then through the 80s, they did the same thing, where it became that story, but that theme got kind of buried. So look at like Wall Street, Trading Places, even. Like the wealthy get screwed, but that's
that
not
is
like
a problematic movie these days.
But it is a little bit of an Eat the Rich movie.
It is a It is.
They just push it to the background.
Yeah.
Or maybe Drink the Rich, because it's about orange juice. But anyway,
So I think that it's the slapstick role, right?
Yeah.
The old no one wants to see Tiny Tim fall over, but it's funny when the guy in the white tuxedo trips and ruins the suit, and then loses his fortune and is forced to see all of his earnings given away to the people he hates.
Yeah.
I think I might be paraphrasing a bit there.
Yeah, I agree with you that a fundamental story structure is the fight of the underdog. I mean, that's David and Goliath right there. But maybe the thing I'm noticing here is the popularity of these stories at the moment. So these stories these movies are coming out and they're very popular for a reason, and it's because we have an appetite for this. Maybe that is what I'm seeing. So income inequality is getting bigger and bigger at an exponential rate. And I think it's also notable that most of these movies are American. I mean, they're not all. I mean, Bong Joon-ho is Korean, and but it's interesting, that Triangle of Sadness. This is a Swedish filmmaker. This is his first English movie, and so I feel like that these movies are nested within what's happening in America specifically. I mean, it's also happening in other places in the world, and it is a global phenomenon, but it's focused, it feels kind of focused on the American way of accumulating vast amounts of wealth.
well, I think Americans, by and large, obviously I'm generalizing, idolize wealth.
Yeah.
It is part of the mythology of our country. It is our belief that any one of us can become a rich person. It's why we are fed this meal that capitalism is great, which spoiler, it's not. So there's kind of, I mean, we put a billionaire in the White House just because he was a billionaire, right? I mean, well, we think he is, or a bunch of people think he is, and we equate wealth with success, in spite of the fact that what we've learned is that once you have wealth, you don't need to be successful to remain wealthy.
You get shrewder.
And well, you don't even have to get shrewder. You don't. Once you have money, all you can do is make more money. It's almost impossible to stop it. It's the way American capitalism works. Once you have money, you will just get richer.
Yeah.
That's 100% how this system works. And anybody who thinks different is not paying attention. So in a country where we idolize something that, if you already have money, is extraordinarily simple, and if you don't have money, is extraordinarily hard, and you also have to be lucky, and you almost certainly also have to be a white dude.
Yeah.
I think these movies come out, and I mean, I hate to say it's a little bit of an opiate for the masses, because the people who are making them are also rich white dudes.
Well,
I'm not talking about the filmmakers, but I'm talking about the people who are putting up the money to make them happen.
Fair.
I don't think they understand though.
No.
I think they understand that there's definitely a market for it.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
the one thing that rich or Hollywood in general, racist, sexist, homophobic, etc. Above all that shit, they're greedy, and if it's making money, they will give you whatever you want.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no self-reflection.
that's true. And it's interesting to me, in several of these films, there's also a portrayal of the liberal rich person, Jordan Peele's Get Out, you got the father who would have voted for
Obama
three
third time,
times.
yeah.
Particularly in Triangle of Sadness, there's a lot of portrayal of very rich people thinking that they can uplift the poorer people in the ship. There's like a very, it's actually a scene I found quite amusing, of rich lady in the pool talking to one of the, I think she was wait staff on the ship or something like that. And the woman who was working on the ship had just been told, you are here to work, you are not here to join the guests in anything. They ask you to do something that is outside of your job description. You can't do it. And so this rich woman is talking to this working woman and saying, "Oh, I would love you. No, it's fine. Just, I like talking to you. Come in here and join me in the pool and, let's play in the water slide." And the rich woman thinks she's being magnanimous, and this poor woman with the job to do is, you just see all the emotions on her face, like, I have to make this woman happy, but I'm not supposed to, be playing on the water slide during my job shift. So there's this, and I think Ruben Östlund is particularly interested in that, because there's, in his previous movies, especially like The Square, which I actually really enjoyed, was about an art museum who is hosting a banquet for its rich supporters, and all these people who are, think of themselves as very progressive, they're giving money to the arts, and they say they want art that challenges them, but when they're actually faced with art that does challenge them, they don't know what to do. So, anyway, I'm sorry, that was...
That's my favorite aspect of some of the newer films, is that pulling back that silly, we call them posers back in my day, I think they're called slackers now or something like that.
Yeah.
But the idea, like, the most insidious are not the people who have, like, the Confederate flags and the hoods and they're calling you names. The scary ones are the ones who want to be your friend or think. There are so many hashtag BLM stickers and t-shirts on people who have never seen a colored person in real life. Or if they did, it would be super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or they start reciting their color catalog. You're like, hey, Denzel Washington's a good actor. It's like, yeah. That's not what I asked. Can I just have my coffee, please? And I think pulling that back, because in the 80s we had a lot of those like plucky gang defeats evil corporate scary dude who has to be racist. So it's like, oh no, they're gonna turn our ski resort into like a parking lot. Let's have a snowmobile race and then we'll save it. The 80s were a really tough. Cocaine's an amazing drug. But
8+ no notes, I would watch that.
so nice to see the actual the villains be like, because there's nothing transgressive about going to like the rural South and finding like the inbred hillbilly family that's gonna like kill all the Negroes. It's like, all right, yeah, probably. I've been to Texas, but it's really scary to like to find like the clean cut like penny loafer khaki set inviting you up to their farmers market where they're serving like colored people. And thinking, well, we just want to help them. It's kind of like that inverse of the altruism thing that happened in horror a bit. There's a terrible movie, don't watch it, but if you find it, I apologize, I think it's called Green Inferno, where it's about this group of do-gooder kids who want to go help like the savages, and then the savages are like, we don't need your help, but you look mighty tasty. And the film is bad, but the message underlying it was pretty straightforward. It's kind of like, helping people who don't want help isn't help at all. That's, harassment.
Yeah.
Colonialism.
Eli Roth, who directed. That was Eli Roth. Yeah. He's a fan. Anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Does anybody have any comments or questions? I thought I saw. Pink.
Can you, one thing that interested me about the menu was how it combined this almost EC Comics level of elaborateness in the
Yes.
revenge. But then it was very much like that poor girl dies because she didn't get student loans. It's the capricious, they're all bad, not great people, but it's such a heavy hand of revenge against everybody who comes to that restaurant, the
Right.
poor wife. You know, because he's got to he blames everyone else for ruining his life instead of himself. So-
Yeah, he's not a hero.
He is not a hero, he's a monster in his own way, but you're being invited into how he sees his lot in life to serve these people. And, his reaction to it is,
Extreme.
extreme, but it sure is fun to watch. Kyle?
So in the light of this, and like Tim's comment is like, in the real world, the rich don't suffer the consequences. It's like in recent events with, let's say, a certain submersible. There's a reason why the memes and there was so much, a lot of people crying, oh, my friends don't have empathy and everything, but the thing is, it's one of the few examples in recent history, and like, human life, but we saw rich people suffer because of their hubris and thinking they were better than everyone. Like interview after interview with this rich CEO saying, we don't need safety regs pull back innovation, blah, 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 over and over again. Like, it's understandable, whether or not it's justified, the memes and everything, it's 100% understandable in the state of the world when, like, don't ask the people who are, oppressed to mourn the death of the oppressors, kind of thing. Like, because we don't see the consequences very often.
Right.
We're also seeing like Elon Musk potentially lose a whole bunch of money on Twitter.
And yet, he's still rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're seeing him enjoy publicly fail and everyone being able to not defend him being a genius. No, he's just luckily rich, and like you said, that's basically immune to, like Jeff Bezos' ex is giving away more money than she got in the divorce, and she's somehow richer than she was before.
Yeah.
Because that's how money works.
You can't stop it.
Yeah. It's a money fountain.
That's a funny
For being the first person to bring up Ocean Gate, I have a prize. I was wondering when it would come up. We made it 27 minutes.
That's impressive.
Yeah, right?
Well, you did have a slideshow.
But I knew when that happened, it's like, oh my God, this is good. Because at Half Price Books, I found a CD of Back to the Titanic.
While you're handing that out, I know that there is somebody raising their hat in the back, and I assume that is because they have some sort of comment.
Yeah, I wanted to build
Oh,
on the
sorry.
Ocean Gate thing. Yeah, I get it. I get all the memes. It's funny. I laugh. But at the same time, there's a lot of frustration. Same week Ocean Gate happened, 300 refugees died on a ship on Regency.
Yeah.
No news coverage. Ocean Gate is still on the front page. So even in death, fucking up, suffering quote-unquote consequences, the rich don't stop screwing us. I mean, our tax dollars are paying for that whole recovery.
Yeah.
I do want to push back a little bit on this very popular trope of like certain things don't get covered. Like, well, we know about them, so one, they did get covered, and two, the reason why they don't get covered is because for everyone who complains, not you, but like collective you, because I don't want to lose the goodwill that's been built up so far. But it's bullshit because the media, and especially in Western media, is a for-profit enterprise.
Yeah.
Which means just like Hollywood, they will serve their audience, their customers, what their customers ask for. If you go to McDonald's and say, I want fries, and they give you ice cream, you don't say, okay, I'm glad you told me that you have ice cream. You say, where are my fucking fries? And the same thing, is the media did put out the story, like, hey, there's this refugee crisis. And the other thing, there's some other layers to that too, with like how the Greek government wasn't super forthcoming with all the information and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's almost sort of like the menu, that sort of false altruism, not you, just you, where everyone wants to appear like, oh my God, like this happened and no one's talking about it. It's like you had all the opportunity to talk about it when you found out about it, rather than talk about no one talking about it. It creates this sort of weird loop of like self-indulgent, like, I don't want to say circle jerk because that's mildly sexist, so we'll just call it like a human centipede of fisting.
A human centipede, that's better.
A fisting. Left-handed, put your left hand, it's like a monkey bogey.
Well,
I was just to Kyle's point, it is, the shining side is extremely understandable because like if you look at other cases of like wealthy hubris, but when it impacts like not wealthy people, there's not names. Like in the 80s, one of the biggest stories when I was a kid was the Tylenol murders, where someone was putting like poison in Tylenol, and like all these pharmaceutical companies were like, well, we don't need safety measures. We're not going to put seals on this stuff. Yeah. And then people started dying.
Yeah.
And like no one was like, like I don't know what a meme would be because I'm not a terrible person, but
Regulations are written in blood.
Pretty much.
It's true.
Yeah,
There's, just be a moment. There's also the, with the refugee boat sinking, there's also the dog bites man is not news, but man bites dog is. With the refugees sinking, that's been going on for a long time, and that's happening like on a weekly basis.
And
Yeah,
I think the answer that I give to this is we can care about more than one thing.
yeah, true.
And we can enjoy watching billionaires implode, literally, and also be really upset about what happened with those refugees. We can do both things. And while it doesn't seem equal, I think that in many ways is, again, it's the media, as Taylor points out, and it's also the fact that, I don't know about anybody else, but one thing that happened to me in the pandemic, and I've always been a big movie fan, I just don't want to watch depressing movies anymore. I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
I want to watch movies where the rich get eaten. I want, and I think it's the same thing. It's like these refugees dying. It's so depressing, and I'm upset about it, and I want to fix it. But I also would rather laugh at the dead billionaires.
Yeah.
And maybe that mindset's going to shift as we get a little further away from the worst of the pandemic, because I'm not going to pretend it's over. But for me, I'm like, yeah, this refugee thing is terrible, and we have to do something. And billionaires imploded. So, and I'm not trying to excuse that behavior either. I'm just saying that I think I don't know that I'm alone in being more interested in the things that make me laugh than the things that make me cry.
I think it's interesting that one of these movies has as a part of its plot the pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah,
That is an amazing movie.
it is a great.
Oh, Glass Onion is fantastic.
Yeah, Glass Onion is highly, highly recommended. And Ryan Johnson should just, direct it. Well, maybe not. But Jun-Ho should also make movies.
think about, can we talk about Parasite a little bit? And why it was so freaking awesome?
Yes, absolutely.
One of the things that stood out for me when I saw it the third time
Yeah.
was the wealthy family is working, or what we would call like upper middle class.
Yeah.
Like they're not like house in the Hamptons, they're just like affluent.
Yeah.
They're dining inns.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I've got a house on the lake. I live out by like the Viking. Minnetonka, that's the place. But they're not like, estates and castles of gods. And like that was fantastic. That little bit of nuance, because I think we're, at least in Western movies especially, our idea of wealth is like, well, okay, I have 3 summer homes, my dad has a speedboat, and like, I have debutantes and this and that, or I'm Carrie Bradshaw and somehow I can afford like a $15 million apartment.
Yeah.
On a $300 a week salary.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no.
I'm sure it's rent controlled. It's just like it's like Friends. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is a movie that is also speaking about specifically South Korean places of privilege, and I'm not qualified to talk about that much, but it's also interesting. You had brought up an interesting point that, these people who own this house aren't outright rich, and they're not even particularly bad people. They're a little clueless at points, but they're not bad people. They are actually victims of this other family that's invading their space. But it's it is a movie about class struggle. Very, very, it is part of the fabric of this movie, and it's a major part of it. Yes?
There's also really, like, with the two families, spoilers, the previous employees and then the new
Oh,
employees,
yeah.
there's that element of kind of and it's really reflected in society, the turning underserved populations,
Yeah,
folks without money against one another.
yeah.
And that, you know, you can definitely see it between those two families. I would argue the whole thing is that. There is
Oh,
a
about-
larger structure that's being served by this entire conflict between the three.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The outplaced family of servants are being knocked off of their jobs, knocked out of their jobs by this incoming family. And yeah, it's all that scrabbling for the crumbs that are left for the rest of us. Yeah, you're very correct about that. You have had your card up for a while. Yellow.
One.
Oh, the yellow in the back, I'm sorry.
So I loved Parasite, and I'm kind of interested to hear you guys talk about them being upper middle class, because I think my read is that they're actually like extraordinarily wealthy based on how South Korean money works.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think that's interesting too, right? That they don't actually seem that rich to Americans.
But I mean, they do have a chauffeur.
I mean, the real estate is like rich person real estate in Korea for sure, like rich. But what I'm interested in is, so I was in Korea a couple months ago and talking to a bunch of friends about this movie.
Yeah.
And these friends are all like roughly fancy people, right? Like college professors and stuff. And what I thought was interesting was that they would all almost immediately break into tears.
Oh,
And
wow.
it gave them this opportunity. They would talk to me about how they had had all these conversations about their own like class journeys, because Korea was super poor pretty recently. And so they were all talking about remembering how their apartment flooded when they were kids, and how they, you know, their whole family worked for so long to move to a less smelly neighborhood, and all these things that were happening in the 60s that are not that far away for Koreans. And I wonder, in you guys' experience, do other Eat the Rich movies, like in the American context, do they have that like social effect where sort of the sort of emotional lever opens up a whole bunch of like class consciousness for people who otherwise aren't super interested?
Like, you're asking about like the personal experience, like relating to the person who is struggling in the movie?
I think I mean like, I think Bong Joon-ho, you know his name. I think his movies sort of illuminate things in ways that make people engage emotionally, and that lets a lot of people who don't give a shit about money or class or anything really think for themselves about these things. And my experience hasn't yet been that there's a movie that has done that in the US in the last 20 years, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you guys have had like weird conversations with your shitty uncle whose like mind was exploded by something.
So you're asking, do we think that the world is changing because of these movies, or if it's
Or have
just-
any of these movies done that for your weird relatives who aren't otherwise very together?
Anyway.
I think, like, to address that first question, I think the reason why it doesn't work, or it's not as prominent or noticeable in American cinema is like, well, two reasons. And just my 3 cents here. One, it's because like we have done an excellent job as a country of like perpetuating that myth that anyone can be rich. Like when you talk to certain political party members, they don't think that they're being exploited by an upper class caste system. They think that they're just waiting for their turn, or that they're rich, they just don't have their money yet, kind of thing. This idea, or they just don't care enough. And then 2, considering the way that this country was established and how it's maintained, to get that kind of visceral emotional reaction, it's a little bit less about class divide in the sense of like middle versus working versus upper class versus affluent, and more about like, well, for a few centuries, that divide was more than just a few dollars. That was literally like, these are people, these are not people, these are chattel. And I think those films, yeah, it's really easy to list off some that had pretty significant impact, even television miniseries and that kind of thing. I think in recent times, maybe the closest is when they blend it, where you get the economic commentary mixed with social commentary. So something like a Get Out is
Yeah.
probably the
I was
closest
thinking
I
that.
could think of.
Yeah, I was thinking that, you know, and then obviously I'm probably the wrong person to ask about the impact of Get Out, but that is a movie that I felt had an impact, and I think I need to speak to it as a white dude. The impact that has as a white dude watching that is the white people in that movie seem kind of nice. And so what that movie is sort of showing you as a white person, if you're open to it, is that the good white people are still a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And it's doing it in a way that is subtle and smart, but I think that it did have an impact on me, but I think it also had a huge impact on friends of mine who are people of color, because they were like, look at this.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
pay attention to what this movie is saying. Not just the crazy idea of replacing a black person's brain with a white person's brain, but just the underlying social commentary of what this movie is saying. And I think that's the closest that I, as a privileged white dude, can say there was something that impacted me within these movies.
Oh, yeah, same thing with Get Out for me is, the moment the line of, I would have voted for Obama 3 times, said, oh shit. Yeah, some of that really, I felt in my soul. It's like, oh no.
And what about the films of Spike Lee?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he is another one of my favorite directors. And a film that comes to mind for me is Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's much like Parasite in a way, because the antagonist, the people in the pizza parlor, they're not necessarily bad people, and they're not necessarily affluent. They're just
Yeah, that one really has that class conflict within lower classes vibe.
yeah.
And I like that, Sorry to Bother You is actually made by a longtime Marxist music maker.
Yeah,
And so he really did that.
Oh God, Sorry to Bother You. I only watched for the first time like within the last year. Kelvin made me watch it, and it's one of the movies like, oh my God, this is amazing. It is beyond the social commentary. It is like light and poppy, and it has really incisive humor, and it really does go to the weird shit. I can't even describe the ending, really. You have no idea where this movie goes. There is no way you can guess it.
No, because at all. Because the movie ends ambiguously, you know there's going to be a continuation.
Yeah. Seriously, if you haven't seen this movie,
watch it.
get on it. It is really fun and really.
And it's a movie that I was like, I want to give this a try. I'm so glad I did.
Oh yeah, it is fantastic. It had been on my list since I first heard about it. I hadn't prioritized it, and it's like, oh, I needed this in my life at least 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, Blue. Hi, Doug.
Hey, first I'll say that, having an Eat the Rich movie that stars Armie Hammer is a choice.
Fair.
But then, just to jump back on to Do the Right Thing, to me that's not really an Eat the Rich movie, more than it's just like a really large examination of the disparities in race.
Yeah.
And, I don't think any of us were like, yeah, the pizza shop has been destroyed.
Yeah, you're right.
All of it kind of reads as the pressures that are put on all of these systems just led to this tragedy. In my view of watching them.
That's a good point.
Hi.
So, one, if you like Bruce Riley, he just released a new series on
Ooh.
Virgo, just launched last week
Yes.
on Amazon Prime, all episodes, and it's about this sheltered black kid who discovers political, I won't get into it because I won't spoil it, it's phenomenal. The fact that Bruce Riley got any more Hollywood money to make stuff, being the person he is borderline miraculous, so go watch it. Maybe the last thing Hollywood ever lets them make, right?
I know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah, it's very good. I've only watched the first episode.
For those of you who are at Field Vacation Tennis, Kelvin made a joke about that show that completely bombed on Friday night.
No, I'm shocked it's not better than Logan, but I gotta admit Amazon isn't promoting it a lot. No. Yeah.
Can you repeat the title?
It's I'm a Virgo.
I'm a Virgo.
What is that? What that's about?
Oh, it's phenomenal.
It's one of those things that's like hard to describe in a few words, but.
But if you like starting to run you should watch it.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Pink, in the back.
Yeah, so I'm kind of interested in the conversation when you were getting into like, you know, I like to be entertained, I like to laugh at the imploding billionaires, but not as much like things that basically, you know, so I'm interested in like the way that entertainment could possibly move people to action, that kind of thread. And so like with a connection to that, I was wondering like, what Eat the Rich movies do you all want to see come out? If you could dream up anything.
More Benoit Blanc. Yes, please. Dinner?
I don't know, you kind of took mine, so Taylor, go, you go.
I would like to see a deeper, Eat the Rich version of Trading Places, but that follows the actual Eat the Rich trope. Because like, what the big difference, right, with the Eat the Rich movie is that the primary focus is on the wealthy. And I think Trading Places, the reason why it doesn't really get thought of that way is because really the primary focus is more on like the folks trying to overthrow the wealthy or take down the not Koch brothers. Mm-hmm. So that would be fun to see like Enron, those fellas, and Madoff. Or who was the pharma bro? He has a name I don't know. Because his story is not over, but it's not going to be a happy ending, and I think that'll make some cinematic gold. I mean, he had a beef with a member of the Wu-Tang Clan. And I wish that's serious. Like he hired actors to pretend to be thugs to make like a diss track against, I think it was Ghostface Killah. And he, and Ghostface Killah said, what the hell? Because Wu-Tang. This is such a tangent, but Wu-Tang Clan released a record and only one of it, and they opened it up for auction, and sure, the pharma bro, like, outbid everyone because he's just a piece of garbage, and he did it, like, in a way, like, there was some Twitter stuff where he was gonna do it just so no one else could have it, or he's gonna do some other silly stuff, and then Wu-Tang's like, well, that's kind of crappy, dude, don't do that, and then he went this whole thing where he's like, I've been watching old 80s movies, so I'm gonna, like, record myself with these actors wearing, like, hoodies and masks, and threatening Ghostface Killah. And yeah, so it's not going to be a happy ending, but it's going to be, I mean, not for him, but it's going to be a delicious movie for us.
You tell that story, and I think of, you know, when like Banksy auctioned a painting.
Oh, yes.
And then as soon as the auction was done, it was shredded.
Yeah.
And so the person who had bought a shredded painting.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's still valuable, that's still.
Oh, I know, because it's still Banksy, and Banksy is.
The market works is, I mean,
Yeah.
Banksy's playing both sides.
Yeah, of course he is, but it still made me think of that. I don't disagree with you there. I think, you know, I want to see a movie that's about the rich really suffering from their hubris, and that, you know, that's what the imploding submarine is all about, right? As we talked about, it's like it is rich people going, well, I can spend $250,000 and I can go see the Titanic in this experimental sub and everything will be fine, and then it ends up that it's not. And again, there are no consequences for being rich. And by being rich, you can avoid all consequences. And if I'm honest with myself, and if I'm honest about our country, even as I sit here and I chuckle at all the legal issues that Donald Trump is going through, I have to admit, I don't expect he will ever see the inside of a jail.
Yeah.
Right.
because he's got enough money to make sure he won't. So what do I want to see? I want to see real consequences for rich people. If you're asking me what, and that's why Knives Out is so delightful.
Yeah, also, I want to see James Cameron make a
Yes.
movie about
It's like, stop it with the Avatar movies, James. There's something better for you.
He is pissed off. He's so angry about it. And yeah, I want him to use that fuel. Okay, I see a lot of hands up. We'll go with the green in the back. Or chartreuse.
Yeah. I guess, kind of going off of that and mentioning Ocean Gate, are there other, I guess real life examples of struggles? I know you mentioned the kind of like idea about trading places. A reboot is maybe not the right word, but the only like struggle for me that comes to mind in terms of a film that I would really like to see done in, not humorously, but as a like thing I would like to laugh at, would be like a Nish Kapoor versus Stuart Semple movie. But I don't know if there are like other struggles that you would like to see on the screen that you feel like are examples of the rich happening in our current pop culture.
Sorry, what was the question again?
Like, are there stories that you feel like we are currently seeing in media that are being played out in real life that you think would make great retellings cinematically in the future for these movies?
Okay, so like, oh, go ahead.
What Elon Musk has been doing to Twitter would make a great movie.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, yeah, like get Aaron Sorkin on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much walking and
I
talking.
mean, Aaron Sorkin's got his problems too, but
Yeah, walking and tweeting.
Yeah. The sequel to the Social Network. Social Network 2, The Bird and the Bird.
All sorts of hands up. I don't know if we've got time to get to them all, but.
Yeah, yeah, we've got like 7 minutes left, so we'll try to pop through. I saw the blue one up there. Yeah. Blue.
So I think this is a quick question, but it seems like justice or that type of thing with the current system, there is no consequences because money is the issue.
Right.
So the question is, do we need a new monetary system? And so do we want more movies like Fight Club that are really attacking the root cause of our economic model / monetary systems? Is that really the root cause of our frustration here? Like, okay, we bring down a few rich people, but that doesn't really change anything. We are still going to keep running things, and as you said, we're just waiting our line. It's this whole propaganda thing, like, oh, we'll be the rich ones, which is, or redistribute the wealth, but then it'll eventually get concentrated again. So how do we really need to be having stories about the monetary systems? And the only one I can think of is Fight Club. If you've got other examples, I'd love to hear them.
And there are, I'm sure of it, and my brain is fried.
Hello, I'm glad this panel's on a Sunday.
I feel like speculative fiction is a good place to go for that. I like reading speculative fiction.
Yeah, either way, any story. Any story. I'd love to hear examples.
The other thing about Fight Club is how many people don't get it.
They take the wrong
Yeah, it's like the people who idolize Rick from Rick and Morty and don't get, no, he's an asshole. Sorry.
There's also sort of, it's extremely challenging to make a for-profit project that's anti-profit.
True that.
It loses a little weight without the misinterpretation. It's just sort of like, well, yeah.
And that started as a novel, it's adapted, obviously. So that's where, you have to play it out. If it's really popular, they'll make a movie out of it.
Yeah,
But that's a whole other panel too. I mean, like when we get a little too precious with the allegories and the symbolism, even if it's a okay suggestion or it's philosophy, like the dude bros and the fanboys take it and run with it and ruin it. Because if you say Fight Club, no one thinks like, oh yeah, that was sort of like mildly terrorist recruiting video / anti-capitalist. They think like, yeah, like Brad Pitt looks really good without it.
I mean, they're not wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Blue. Hi, Doug.
Hi, I just wanted to say I was inspired, and now I want to see a Jim Jarmusch caper starring Bill Murray and the Wu-Tang Clan stealing the album.
I want that. You're right. I want that. Okay, Yellow.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to preface this by just bringing up a very, very old movie. There's this silent film era movie called Earth. And I think
What was it again?
Earth.
Earth. Oh, yeah.
And I think it's like I think it's Ukrainian or something like that. But it's a very early film, and it depicts like a farming village in Ukraine, and it's very much a communist propaganda film.
Yeah.
Because they get the town all pitches in, they get a tractor, you know, it's like this is the modernization of farming, this is all, you know, all that stuff. But it's a film that's sort of geared toward that group of people. And I think about my background. I come from a farming family, a farming community in rural Nebraska. I am part of that culture, the entrenched culture that is lower class, but white, and just full of puritanical values, that's always complaining about anyone else who's poor complaining. Do you know what I mean? Like like what Taylor was talking about, like you just haven't earned it yet, baby. You know, like that kind of like you just gotta work harder.
Yeah.
Is there a film that could ever come out that would reach them in an emotional, intellectual place? Because all of these films we're talking about are for not those people.
Right.
Sure.
I agree.
So I don't know, but like I'm not saying that like we make a communist propaganda film about this, you know, all the villagers getting a tractor, but yeah, okay, well maybe, yeah. And it's funny, the tractor breaks down, all the farmers take turns pissing in the, you know, the radiator so that like it's cool. No, it's good, yeah. But
And that's why we need to fight for Ukraine.
that's why. So, I just don't know, you say what kind of movie you want to see. I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone even knows how to make it. I don't know.
Or it's very possible a movie like that has been made, it just didn't hit the mainstream.
Yeah.
I see a lot of stuff every year that, I do a lot of film festivals, and I see a lot of really great movies that just kind of get buried.
Yeah.
People don't take notice. Yeah.
With Western concepts, or Western American films especially, I don't think it works as a film or series, or, yeah, I'm not trying to be the disco tutor. What came before disco? I don't want to be the grunge tutor disco.
Yeah.
What did you hear about? Whatever. Forget that part. I think it's really hard for Americans to do that,
It is.
or Western,
Yeah.
just because we have this thing where no matter what the protagonist is, if they're the protagonist, we immediately are going to relate to them. I mean,
Yeah.
the series Breaking Bad is not called Breaking Cool, or Breaking like he's okay, or Breaking Misunderstood. It's Breaking Bad. He's a bad dude,
Yeah.
but everyone loves
Everybody likes
Heisenberg.
it. Everybody likes it.
Like The Sopranos. is
Well,
like,
yeah,
this
so
is-
like you just, I don't know if a movie like that can reach an American audience because that white culture, that puritanical white culture, that like, you know, conservative, rural kind of thing, they have such a strong culture of individuality that they just don't understand the collective good kind of thing. They just don't, it's like they don't care about collective good. It's also individual freedom. That there's no like convincing them that like, oh, this big system is fucking things up. They're like, no, not big system, me, what can I do? You know, they reject it wholeheartedly. So I don't know how you get that.
Well, there are ways to do it, nobody's figured it out yet, but I mean, they got those values outside of themselves. I mean, those values are there because somebody advertised better than we are for those ideas. So
we have a
that
minute.
that is a long discussion.
We have a minute and we have
just
a
turned
lot of hands.
So we are at time for the panel. I'm sorry we didn't get through all of the comments and questions. I don't feel like moving from this chair, so if you want to keep talking, just come on.
Yeah, there's another panel in a half hour. We got 30 minutes, so.
Yeah. Thank you so much.